Hello everybody and welcome to this next SunVox tutorial. And we are still working on our tutorial song here, and we have done quite a bit already. Last time we looked at accidentals, and we have both sharps as well as flats, and in this episode we are going to look at different time signatures. So far all we've done is in the 4/4 time scale, and what that means is that we have 4 beats for every measure, and one beat is 1/4 note or 1/4. And we also use this time signature to set the tempo. Right here at the top we say that 1/4 note equals 100, so we have 100 quarter notes or 100 beats per minute. Now, the reason I've used 4/4 for this song is that at the moment probably this is the most common time signature. Most popular songs are in a 4/4 time, and it's just something we are most used to, but that doesn't mean that it is the only time signature there is, and it also doesn't mean that other time signatures are not common at all. I mean, a lot of songs also do use 3/4 time signature or even a 6/8, and well, there are a few that are more used than others, but there aren't really any limitations on what time signatures are possible. So in this tutorial we are actually going to look at changing our time to 5/4 time scale. So that means that we are still counting quarter notes. That's what this 4 means. But every measure now consists of 5 quarter notes. So let's go ahead and start entering this variation number 9 into SunVox. So first of all, I create a new pattern here in the pattern editor by double clicking and then dragging this over so it lines up neatly with the end of the song, or where the end currently is. Of course, then what we see is that this pattern still has 32 lines in it, and some of these lines are highlighted, such as line 0 and line 16, to signify the first beat, and then we've got all these other lines in between. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 2 measures, and they are both 4 beats each, and 1 beat is counted as a quarter note in SunVox. So how do we change this to 5/4? Well, if I just either double click on this pattern, or I can right click on it and then click pattern properties. I could even right click anywhere here in the pattern and click on pattern properties. That will bring up this pattern properties menu. And right here I can change the number of lines. So currently, of course, it is set to 32, and 32 means we get 8 beats across 2 measures. Now here, if we look at the music score, we don't have 4 beats in a measure, we have 5 beats in a measure. So 2 measures together are 10 beats. And we know that 1 beat consists of 4 lines here in SunVox. So 10 beats will be 40 lines. So I can just click here on this number where it says number of lines, and I can delete that number and type in 40. Alternatively, I can use the plus and minus here to change the length of the pattern. Now then I click on close, and here we have our pattern is now 40 lines or 10 beats long. However, you notice that these highlighted lines are still using the same separation. So I've still got 4 beats here for a line, and then this signifies the first beat of the second measure. And then this one would signify the first beat of the third measure, but that's only halfway there. Well, unfortunately, there is currently no way in SunVox to change these highlights. SunVox will always assume you are making a 4/4 time song. That is of course something that may change in a future version, but at the moment this is unfortunately not possible. So anyway, let's go ahead and enter these first two measures now into this pattern. So we start off with C, and that's a half note. So that's still counts as 2 beats, and then we get the G, which is also a half note. And then we have one more beat left in this measure, and that's an F and an E in these two 8 notes here. And then the second measure is fairly similar, except we start on an F for 2 beats and then back to the C. And this last beat is E and F. And then we've got a fairly interesting bass line here. It's got this very low C quarter note and another one here. And it's got these quarter rests in between. And at the same time, these 8 notes here are playing. So that's something you don't see very often, but it's not impossible. And this is of course still a valid way of writing sheet music. So let's go ahead and just enter first of all these 8 notes in here. So this starts on a C, then E, and that's the first measure done, and then we go on to the second measure here, which starts on an F. So that's F, A, C, A, F, and then do note that this goes to a G, A, G, A, G, and not back to the A, as you might expect. And then at the same time we go back to the first measure. We have to lower the octave to get these notes in. So just press the F3 button on the keyboard. And that's a quarter note, so that's rest ends that note right there, and then another quarter note here, and this rest ends that note here, and then we've got another rest for the 5th beat here, and then we go on to the next measure. Well, we got the same pattern, so that's quarter note, quarter rest, quarter note, and 2 quarter rests. And then of course, as usual, we change the volume of this bass line to 60. And then this is what the first 2 measures sound like. So that may sound a bit strange if you are used to the regular 4/4 time, and even if you are used to listening to different times, such as 3/4 or 6/8. But we can count along, and we can see that this does actually come up to 5 beats per measure, and that these are these 2 measures here. You can just count along with these half notes here. So let's do that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so you can see that these lines here that are highlighted still show where the beats are, but these extra highlights here for the first beat of the measure, they don't really work anymore. So it is a little bit tricky, but it is not entirely impossible to do any time other than 4/4 in SunVox. Anyway, so with those two measures in place, we can now go ahead and just repeat this process for the other 6 measures here. So we just add in another pattern, change the number of lines to 40. Move the cursor right up to the top left there, and we start off by putting the octave back up by 1, and then start off here on this E, which is a quarter note, so we go to a half note C, and a quarter note C and E, and then that's our first measure done. The second measure here, or the fourth one, depending on how you look at it, starts off with a D, which is a half note, then a G for a quarter note, and G, F, E, D, 8 notes. Then we get to the bass line. That's our first measure here. The second one is a little bit different, but it still starts on the G. And then note it goes to D, F, D, G, D, F, D, F, D. And then the second half of this bass line, first of all, on the third measure here is C. And here it is a G. And then the third and fourth measure sound like this. And again, we can count along with these measures to verify that they are indeed 5/4 measures. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we can move on to measure 5 and 6 here. Again, it's still the same process. Move the number of lines up to 40. And start entering these notes here in the correct octave. And then this bass line starts on this C. And then F. And then we've got the second part of this bass line. And that sounds like this, and if we count along with it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And finally, the last two measures to add to this variation number 9 are as follows. That's for the treble line, and then the bass line. Note that this C here in the bass line is actually a half note with a dot next to it, so that counts for 3 beats. And these rests here actually are part of this lower part of the bass line. And then that sounds like this. And then let's listen to this entire variation. And that's it for variation number 9. Now the fun doesn't stop there, because we've got variation 10 right next to it, and that is also still in the 5/4 time scale. But to make things a little bit more interesting, I also added all these triplets in here. So if you want the challenge, you might go ahead, pause the video now. If you haven't downloaded this tutorial sheet music yet, just take a look in the description, because there will be a link to where you can download this. And you can go ahead and enter this into SunVox right now. And then when you're done, I will go through with it as well with you, and you can compare and listen if your version sounds the same as mine. So here we are. I have added a new pattern, and it is 40 lines long, so I can fit in 2 measures at once. And we start off with this treble line, and these are all triplets. So I might want to look at some other triplets to see exactly how I did it. So if we look back at this older variation where we had these triplets, you can see that they do come in groups of 3, with just 1 line in between, and then the second and third line have a delay to it. So that's just what we will do here. To make things simple, I will first start and just add in all these little groups of 3. So we start off with G, C, E, G, E, G, C, E, G, and C, E, G, G, A, G. And now we have 5 groups of 3, and that are these 5 triplets. And we do the same with the second measure, which is FAF, CFA, C, A, F. And then interestingly, we've got an E flat. So if you remember, that is entered as a D sharp. And then D, C. We go back to that same E flat. And then F and D. And that's the first two measures. That's just the melody line. Of course, that's not correct yet, because we need to enter the delay values for every second and third note in the triplets. And for the second triplet, that's a delay of 2 ticks, and the third one has a delay of 4 ticks. And now they should all be spaced equally apart. That sounds about right. So then let's go ahead and enter these bass lines. Again, there is that E flat. So we enter that as a D sharp, which is the same in SunVox. And then the lower part of the bass line is very simple. It's just and now we adjust the volume for this bass line. We always set it at 60. And you may have noticed that we have something else interesting going on, and that's that the actual melody line is played here in the bass line. So all these triplets here, they're not the actual melody. So instead of setting this bass line to volume of 60, we will set this melody line to volume of 60. Just so the actual melody, which is being played, is a little bit more into the foreground of our mix. And now these two measures sound like this. And if you want to count along to verify that there are in fact 5 beats in every measure here, you can go ahead and do that. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go, yeah, you have the first 2 measures of variation number 10 entered. So go ahead, add in the next pattern. And now what we'll do, just to make it a little bit easier on ourselves, we just copy all these notes into the second pattern. Of course, the notes are going to be different. So what I do, I just click and hold the mouse on the first note there, and just drag my mouse down until I have selected the entire pattern or the entire channel. Then I can right click and copy. I can also use the usual Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V commands. I go to the pattern where I want to paste it, put the cursor right in the top left corner there, right click and select paste. Now this is exactly the same as this. We don't want that, so we want to have different notes. But if I just put my cursor there, go into edit mode, and just enter these notes. So start off with a C, G, E, and you can see that by doing that we keep the volume and we keep all these values I've entered here for the delay. So I have changed the melody, but the rhythm and everything else stays the same. So now go ahead and enter the top half of this bass line, which is actually the melody. Now note that these two notes here have this dot underneath them. So they should be played only for like half their normal length. So I do a 1C command, which is, if you right click on it, set effect. 1C is the cut note after this many ticks. In this case 3 ticks, because I know there are 6 ticks in each line. And then we have this triplet here. So they need the delay effect on them, 2 and 4. By the way, if you pay close attention, you will see that these G's are exactly 1 octave apart, these C's are 1 octave apart, and these B's are 1 octave apart. So these two triplets are basically played in unison. And then we have these 16th notes again, and again notice that they are cut short, at least these last two are. So I will need to add the cut effect here again, and I will use value 3, so these will be cut after 3 ticks again. And then here we have a triplet. The first 2 notes of this triplet are tied together into this one E here. So I can just do this, put the delay effects on there, delay of 4 ticks. And again you can see that this E and this E are 1 octave apart, and same with these C's here. The only difference between this triplet and this triplet is that this G in between isn't there. And then we end this measure with these 4 16ths. So that's B, A, then F sharp, and E. And again, these last 2 notes are cut, like so. And then this measure we start off with this triplet. And again, you will notice that these 2 triplets are played in unison. They are 1 octave apart. And then we are back to normal quarter notes. So we've got a B here, and then a rest, and this is a B 1 octave lower and a C. So that is a bit of a tricky measure to work through, but if you just analyze it carefully, you should be able to figure it out. And then we add in the last baseline here. Do note these accidentals here. This A and this A are both meant to be played as A flats. And remember, in SunVox that's the same as G sharp. So this measure may sound a little bit weird, but if you've done it correctly, it should sound like this. Now we've just got these last 4 measures left, and they are fairly straightforward. Again, to make things simple, just copy and paste this whole section into this pattern here. And then just enter these notes as normal. And the next measure. And here we have another E flat. And there we go. Now add in the bass line. And the other half of the bass line is very simple. And this is what that sounds like. And then we're almost there. Last 2 measures here. Now we should still have these notes I copied earlier into our clipboard, so I can just paste them in right there and then just follow these notes in here. Now I just hold Shift and press the down key to select all these notes, then press Shift and Delete to get rid of them all, because we don't need them anymore. This last note is an 8th note and it's not part of a triplet, so that just lasts for half a beat or 1/8 note, and then we have an 8th note rest and another quarter note rest, which is exactly what we see here. So that's the 8th note and that's the quarter note. And then the bass line. Which ends in a half note, so that would take it up to here. And then we have a quarter note, that would take it up to here. The quarter note has a dot next to it, so it's half a quarter note longer. So that takes it up to here, which is exactly at the same location where this 1/8 C ends. So again, we have a quarter rest and this 8th rest here, which is what we see here. And then this bass line continues like so. And there are only 4 quarter notes here, so this quarter rest also applies to these 4 notes here. So there we go, we have successfully completed our measures in the 5/4 time. So let's go ahead and listen to what we've got now, starting on variation number 9 here. And this is what that sounds like. So there you go. That is how you write songs in SunVox in a different time than 4/4 or in common time. So just to show you that again, change the number of lines to 40, so you've got 10 beats in this measure. Of course, if you want to do 3/4 time, you would calculate 3 times 4 is 12. So you would go up to, for example, 24 lines. And then in there you have two times 3 notes. So you must remember that this line here is actually the first beat of the second measure in 3/4 time. Anyway, that's it for this 6th tutorial in making music in SunVox. I hope you've enjoyed. If you did, do like, subscribe and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching and I will see you again next time.